Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. We'll be reinforcing again this week the fact that when we get ideas, that we're reminded that that is 2 words. It's I, and the Latin word for God is deo. So when they invented that word idea, they were trying to say they were getting an idea, an inspiration from God, because that was 2 words put together, I and deo. Just like the word inspiration is 2 words, it's the word in and the word spiration, which means when you get an inspiration, you're getting the inflow of the Holy Spirit of God giving you wisdom. Likewise, the word intuition is 2 words. The word in and the word tuition comes from the word being tutored. So when you get an intuition, you're getting an inflow of a private tutoring from God. So those 3 words, idea, inspiration, and intuition, those are words that people invented in history, which signify they were getting inspirations from God. So our first coincidence miracle goes back a few years when I began to give lectures about the 2 books we wrote. And one of the lectures we gave was in a local church. And the lecture was about actually following ideas, inspirations, intuitions. You know, when you get those thoughts, pray about understanding them, because very often it's God trying to send us a message, because God can't talk to us directly and interrupt us because he gave us free will, but he can send us these proddings and these nudges and promptings with ideas, inspirations, and intuitions. So I was explaining that during the lecture at the church, and we had several examples given of, coincidence miracles, as I've been doing every week on this radio show. We're always talking about how God has inspired people to do certain things which cause coincidence miracles and show us that God really is talking to us in these inspirations and ideas. Yes, we can get inspirations and ideas from the devil as well, so we need to be careful and discern that we're getting good ideas, not bad ideas. But the fact is, we do get this input. You don't invent an idea. You don't make up an idea. You don't make up an inspiration. It's something that pops into your mind all of a sudden while you're not anticipating it. Like suddenly you think, maybe I'll go to Hawaii for my next vacation. You suddenly think of that. It's not something you planned on thinking about at that moment. And that's why it's called an idea or an inspiration. So during this talk at the church, while we were doing this, we got to the point at the end of the talk where I opened up for questions and answers. And one of the men in the audience raised his hand, stood up, and asked if he could possibly come up and take over the microphone that I was using because he had something very important to say. My normal reaction was that's not a good idea. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he was going to say. And as the speaker, I'm responsible to control what's being told to the audience. So I wasn't feeling it was a great idea. But I asked God in my mind and in my heart at that moment from the podium. And I was inspired because I asked God a question. I got an immediate inspiration. I got an immediate idea, or let's call it an intuition, to allow him to do that. And he seemed like a good person, and I thought I would have enough help from God to stop him from talking if I had to. So he came up and he took over the microphone. I'm very glad that I followed that inspiration, because what he said was, he's been having a terrible period of a couple of months with problem after problem, stress after stress, all kinds of things, work-related, financial problems, health problems, marital problems. I mean, he really was having a lot of problems. And he said he was driving by the church, not in a very good mood at all, but when he saw all the cars parked here at a strange time of day, we were meeting late at night, he thought he had an idea. He said, now that I know what an idea is, he said, I'll tell you I had an idea, and I'm sure it was an inspiration from God now that I've heard the lecture. And so I came in mainly out of curiosity, because I knew there were cars around a church, and a church is a good thing. So I came in to see what was happening, and I'm very glad I heard the lecture. And I did have ideas, inspirations, and so he wanted to thank us and he wanted to share with us that he was actually sent in to come and join us unannounced, and he sees all of this as God was inspiring him. So to him it was very much a coincidence miracle, and he's dedicated now to listen to the ideas and inspirations he gets throughout the day and stop and then start asking God's questions about it. Because we covered in the lecture that when you get an inspiration, you need to ask God questions about it. Start talking to him in your mind, like mental telepathy. You ask him questions in your mind, and he'll give you answers back. And the answers coming back will be feeling like and happening like, just like the idea did. The answers from God will pop back into your head immediately when you ask the question. God doesn't have to ask lawyers and accountants what to tell us and to make a decision. So when you ask God a question, his answer comes immediately. In fact, he already knows what you're going to ask before you ask it. So this was a very delightful experience and I was certainly happy I did give him the microphone, because he confirmed on the spot as a stranger that God was inspiring us to have this meeting, and we were all blessed by his comments. Our next coincidence miracle has to do with one of our family events. We were trying to help one of our teenagers purchase their first car, and we all know what that's like. We were all teenagers once ourselves, and our teenager had a dream and a passion about a specific car that they were in love with, and they had hoped to have it for several years before they became able to drive. So their hopes were high. And so we agreed as a family, there were 4 of us at the time, to go out on Saturday, pre-plan it a week ahead. We made a lot of calls during the week. We set up appointments with several dealers. We set up some appointments with people who were having personal private sales of cars. Even though the specs weren't exact, we had specific specs, desires from the teenager about the year, the make and model, the color, So we were looking for a specific car, but we figured if we found one that was not the right color, we could always get it painted. And we didn't think it was going to be such an ordeal because we were fortunate to find several places which had cars similar to what we were looking for. So we hoped that they would find or have such cars available on this particular Saturday. So we all got up early and we got ready to go, had our plans in hand and took off. And we went from place to place and got more and more frustrated and irritated with each visit because even though we'd asked for specific things, people said, sure, we have it. And then we get there, and we get let down and things were not a good match. Or they were in such bad shape. If they matched our specs, we thought the cars were in such bad shape we didn't want to invest in, let's call it a lemon. So it was a very frustrating period. So after about 4 or 5 hours of doing that, from place to place, certainly the teenager was at their wits' end, but the family was getting tired. And so I got inspired. I had an idea, and I talked to God about it when I got the inspiration and an idea, and I felt a great positive answer from God in my mind and heart. Yes, the family would do well to sit down and relax for a while, and we still had a couple of other places to go to. So, and I knew about a diner that was not far away, so I got an idea to do that and to go to that specific diner. We had choices of several diners to go to, but and I asked the family, and they all agreed, yeah, let's go to that diner. So we drive over to the diner, and totally amazed because right in front of the diner, in a parking spot, was the exact car we were looking for. It had a for sale sign on it by the owner. It was the exact color, model, make, year. It was in extremely great looking shape from the outside. But I want to take a deep breath here because I'm reliving the moment. I didn't make this story up. This really, really happened. We go to the diner, and there is the exact car we were looking for the last 4 or 5 hours. And notably, we got inspired, and we all agreed to come here. So bottom line, I could say to you that God actually helped us by having the car we wanted delivered right there. So we called the number and found out that the person was right inside there. And so he came out, and we talked about the car, and it was a perfect match. And so we did purchase the car. I know this story may sound totally unbelievable, but that's the way it is when God is sending miracles. And just to remind you all again that we can listen to the ideas, the inspirations. God wanted us to go through this whole entire process, to be out there looking and see what was available. So the bottom line is that when we purchased the car we finally settled on, we knew that it was 1 in a million because we had practically seen a million beforehand and we couldn't find the one we wanted. So I hope this encourages all of you to pay attention to those ideas, the inspirations, and the intuitions, because those are little nudges from God to pay attention and talk to Him and ask Him for the next thing to do. God bless you all. I'll talk to you again next week. And I hope this week's discussion on these 2 points have convinced you to use ideas and inspirations to help guide you. But always talk to God about them. When you get an inspiration, talk to Him and get the next inspiration from Him saying, yes, this is me speaking to you.